I forbid accountability. We respect your constitutional role. We want you to respect ours.
Have you no sense of decency, sir? At long last, have you left no sense of decency?
See, I want to see the truth come forth. Now, how that is done, I'm really not completely familiar with.
Why don't you initiate the impeachment of President Bush? For that, but there's only one place where there's more enthusiasm for the Democrats to initiate the impeachment of George Bush, and that is in the Republican caucus in the House of Representatives. They would like nothing better than for us to do that.
I think that we have to learn from the past, and we cannot let the politicizing of, for example, the Justice Department to go unreviewed. The past is prologue. We learn from it.
Pelosi and that crew are just beyond pathetic. I mean, these people were elected on the promise they were going to stop the war.
We, the Democrats, I think, pushed it as far as we can to the envelope. We didn't say it, but we implied it, that if we won the congressional elections, we could stop the war. Now, anybody who was a good student of government knew that wasn't true. But, you know, the temptation to want to win back the Congress, we sort of stretched the facts, and people ate it up.
Then they say there'll be no more blank checks. We're going to have troop withdrawal schedules attached to the funding. Then she says he'll not get another dime for the war this year. All wrong. He's getting everything he wants. No questions asked. Once again, the Democrats will talk about parallel investigations, and they'll talk about this and they'll talk about that, but they won't hold anybody in contempt. They won't throw anybody in jail. They won't do anything except allow themselves to be pushed around by arguably the most secretive administration in the last 100 years in this country. We don't know anything about any investigation, whether it's Valerie Plame, whether it's the telephone company's role in the NSA spy program. We don't know much of anything. Remember the energy meetings? We still don't know who was in those. And the Democrats have the majorities in both the House and Senate. It's a joke.
Who are we as a nation? If our leaders can lie to us to take us into a war and escape any consequences, the reason why Article 2, Section 4, which establishes impeachment, was put in the Constitution was to protect the people of this country from a president who would act as a monarch. And we have a co-equal branch of government. When Congress says, as our leaders have, impeachment is off the table, what they have done is to nullify a provision in our Constitution which protects us, which protects the democratic form of governance. This is a very serious moment in American history, and it should not be taken lightly. And I have no hesitation whatsoever to say that, yes, the Vice President and the President violated the law, and that they ought to be held accountable, that they ought to be impeached and removed from office.
Are you saying that Nancy Pelosi was somewhat out of line in
absolutely.
her statement
this
of
is
taking
not
it off the table?
Absolutely. This
she
is
was
not
obstructing the execution of the Constitution?
I think that I don't want to make this personal, but she is the one who made the decision. But I think she's wrong to do this, and I've said so, and I'll say it again here, that it's a wrong approach to take, that our responsibility is to uphold the Constitution. Congress is a co-equal branch of government. Think of what this means. I want you, you and everyone watching, to think of what it means. If we do not hold a president and vice president accountable, if they took us into a war based on lies, then what level of conduct would have to be obtained before another chief executive would be held for an impeachable offense? What kind of an offense does it take for an impeachment? If that isn't the most serious offense against this country, I don't know what.
President Obama today proposed something new, something called prolonged detention. Doesn't sound that bad, right? Prolonged detention.
There may be a number of people who cannot be prosecuted for past crimes, in some cases because evidence may be tainted, but who nonetheless pose a threat to the security of the United States.
We're not prosecuting them for past crimes, but we need to keep them in prison because of our expectation of their future crimes. Putting somebody in jail not for what they've done, but for what you're very sure they're going to do? after condemning the Bush administration for what he called their ad hoc legal strategy for trying to make things seem legal that patently weren't. This is what President Obama proposed.
My administration has begun to reshape the standards that apply to ensure that they are in line with the rule of law. We must have clear, defensible, and lawful standards for those who fall into this category. We must have a thorough process of periodic review so that any prolonged detention is carefully evaluated and justified. Our goal is to construct a legitimate legal framework. Our goal is not to avoid a legitimate legal framework. In our constitutional system, prolonged detention should not be the decision of any one man. If and when we determine that the United States must hold individuals, we will do so within a system that involves judicial and congressional oversight. And so going forward, my administration will work with Congress to develop an appropriate legal regime so that our efforts are consistent with our values and our Constitution.
You'll construct a legal regime to make indefinite detention legal. You will, what does he say? Develop an appropriate legal regime. So you can construct a whole new system outside the courts, even outside the military commissions, so that you can indefinitely imprison people without charges. And you'll build that system from scratch. One civil liberties advocate told the New York Times today, quote, "We've known this was on the horizon for many years, but we were able to hold it off with George Bush. The idea that we might find ourselves fighting with the Obama administration over these powers is really stunning." And it is stunning, particularly to hear President Obama claim the power to keep people in prison indefinitely with no charges against them, no conviction, no sentence, just imprisonment. It's particularly stunning to hear him make that claim in the middle of a speech that was all about the rule of law.
But we must do so with an abiding confidence in the rule of law. Our government was defending positions that undermine the rule of law to ensure that they are in line with the rule of law.
How can a president speak the kind of poetry that President Obama does about the rule of law and call for the power to indefinitely, preventively imprison people because they might commit crimes in the future?
That we capture, like other prisoners of war, must be prevented from attacking us again.
Prevented. We will incarcerate people preventively. Preventive incarceration. Indefinite detention without trial. That's what this is. That's what President Obama proposed today, if you strip away the euphemism. How long would President Obama's proposed preventive indefinite detention last? Well, he's not saying yet, but here's how he defines the threat that he says makes indefinite detention necessary.
Right now, in distant training camps and in crowded cities, there are people plotting to take American lives. That will be the case a year from now, 5 years from now, and in all probability 10 years from now.
10 years from now. So you could get arrested today and locked up without a trial, without being convicted, without being sentenced for, say, 10 years until the threat of your future criminal behavior passes. Prolonged detention, he's calling it. This is one of the most radical proposals for defying the Constitution that we have ever heard made to the American people.
I think that we have to learn from the past. Past is prologue. We learn from it.
One thing is certain. On this issue, Obama has proven himself to be worse than George Bush.
Protect the people of this country from a president who would act as a monarch.
They knew the time had come for them to take command. Clear your beard, unfair king, no matter what you say, we won't obey. Gonna hold a revolution now, king, and we're gonna run it all away with no more king. No more king. Nobody's gonna tell us what to do. Rockin' and a rollin', sishing and a splashing over the horizon. What can it be? Looks like it's going to be a free country.
Turn them off!
This is a theater of the absurd, my friends. This is a theater of the absurd.